Welcome to the Personal Brand Era podcast. I'm your host, Ella Ray, and I'm excited to talk to Ariane Lalakea today. She is an entrepreneur and transformational leader, facilitator, and spiritual guide. She combines a modern and holistic approach to embodiment, well-being, and intimacy with those of ancient tantric and shamanic wisdom, infuse it with leadership and business. And I'm so excited to know what led you to focus on integrating exactly these two things, like embodiment practices and feminine energy, into business, which is quite unusual and unique.
Yay! Hello, Ella. Thank you for having me here. And this was a journey. So I started working at the university as a business consultant, and I was so much in this hustling and overworking, overachieving, pushing, working 60, 70, 80 hours a week, working during the weekend. I had an all-in contract. I was like all in, basically. And there was this notion underneath it all that I was wearing a mask. I always had an agenda. I felt very inauthentic. And I was totally cut off from my body. Even though I was practicing yoga at this moment in time, I was still having a performance-driven yoga practice, basically. So what happened was that I was on the verge of a burnout, and I got some severe issues with my hormonal balance, with my autoimmune disease, and I needed to pull the brake because I felt so trapped in this idea of I need to man up to be successful. I need to be somebody else than I actually am in order to be successful. And I went on a vision quest. I studied positive psychology and coaching psychology in a second master degree. I went to India to study Tantra. I went to Hawaii to study conscious sensuality. And I was like, wow. And I discovered like this being in me that knows that it's enough to just be. I don't have to do something in order to be something. So I was like, wow, it was like opening me up so much. And I was like, in all this, I discovered my body. I fall in love with my body. I was like, wow, this is exactly what was missing, this element. And then I first started a project around conscious sensuality and sexuality, and I did in-person events. And then COVID came, and in COVID I had a little bit of like, okay, what am I doing now? And then I was like, oh, I'm gonna take both of my experiences. I'm gonna take my consulting background and I fuse it with all of this embodiment, because I saw that this is so much needed, because so many are struggling in hustling, in pushing, in like always feeling slightly not good enough in one way or the other. And this is how everything established, and I brought in all the tools that I gathered from conscious sexuality, from strategic consulting, from leadership coaching. So I have like a huge pile of experiences and of tools that I work with. And I'm like, yeah, I'm so passionate about like, yeah, fusing all of that in that way together. Yeah.
And I think it is very timely, because with so many women that I talk to, they do tell me that this is what is missing. Exactly what you have described, the masculine energy that takes us over, or we believe we have to represent that energy all the time in order to achieve something in business, since we have subconsciously learned that business is a male space, so to speak. Historically speaking, it is also a male space, and coming in as a woman is a really difficult task, I would say, if you have to face a lot of male energy and you don't even know what feminine energy means for you particularly, right? You first have to kind of discover that. And I'm really sure that a lot of people also have a lot of misconceptions when it comes to embodiment, what it even means, and feminine energy. So let's talk about that.
Mm-hmm. Well, as you said, many they don't really know what they are missing until they understand what it means. And I think a big misconception around femininity is that then it's like everything is fluffy and surrender and chaos and like this kind of thing. And all over emotions all over, you know, this kind of like you have to get yourself together. But in fact, this is exactly what it what I think is needed to fuse both. It's not like no to masculine and yes to feminine. It's like, okay, how can we integrate and be all of who we are, especially in business, especially as leaders? Because if we keep on moving ahead with making profit to the cost of everything, we're gonna exploit. And like, yeah, I mean, very, very dark view, but yeah, it's gonna end to nowhere good. So bringing in these aspects of like compassion of the heart, like bringing in the heart, bringing in the fact that everything is interconnected. It's not a one-man show. It's not like who has the biggest market share. It's not like so much competitive, but looking more towards collaboration. So the misconceptions are also that like embodiment and femininity is just about physical sensations, but it's also about the emotions. It's about our mindset. It's about like how we are, like what is not so much like what we do, is more like who we are while we're doing it, and how am I showing up in that. And then another misconception that I find a lot is that it's a new age concept, like you have to be very woo-woo or very spiritual, or you know, like I'm not esoteric, I'm not spiritual, but this is like really rooted in our very human nature and in our needs. And it's like it's so much more than new age. And I think it's here because we, as you said, we need that. And it's not only about relaxation and pleasure, it's also about discomfort and pain. It's about how can I increase my capacity to hold the ups and the downs and to meet life and business from a place of self-centeredness, from a place of my heart. Because I truly believe, like, when we come from connected to our heart, connected to our body, we do business very different. We stand in ourselves from a very, very different place. So coming from that place rather than hunting a KPI or hunting the next big goal. Yeah.
That is very closely connected actually to motivation and inspiration. I do research that a lot for my own business because it plays such a big role for people to um, be motivated enough to achieve a certain goal, because oftentimes we have to endure a lot in order to come to that goal or achieve that goal. It's not done in one day, right? We have to endure many things, and maybe it takes 1 year, maybe it takes 3 years, and you have to stay inspired and motivated. And what I found in all my research is that these two things are actually not anywhere to find in your mindset, but rather in your feeling, in your body, in your heart space. So whenever you are actually connected to your body, you will never run out of inspiration and motivation. You will have limitless stamina, so to speak. One of the things that have been found being the sole indicator of success with people that we see in the arena outside, whether it is men or women. So for both, you have to have that kind of balance and connection to your heart. So this conversation is extremely important, I feel, for people to hear. And
Yes.
I would like to know how you actually, whenever you meet those misconceptions and all this skepticism about these rather unconventional practices, how do you meet them and how do you handle with them?
Well, I meet them with love, right? I mean, I love when there's already some skepticism, you know? So it's like, cool, because this means that there is something for this person. Like when you're like thinking like, oh, what, like when I trigger and this what I say, and this brings some skepticism, what is a little bit like a reaction to it, then it's like, yes, this is really good, because this means that it is relevant. Otherwise, people would just be like, like, if it would not make any noise, it would rather be disappointing for me. And yeah, I mean, I go even that far that I say, like, I'm including the cycle and the cyclical nature, because it's also like in like men, I mean, they're more or less like it's also ask a lot from men, and I don't want to include that this is not important for men here as well. But as women, we have different capacity depending on where we are in our cycle. And everybody born in a woman body knows that before the bleeding, things are exhausting. It's very easily that you're like more like triggered and stuff like that. Yeah. So this is just how it is. And I think we need to accept this and even include and integrate this in the way how we are doing business, especially as entrepreneurs, where we can have actually a choice and lead from a different example than from a perspective that I always have to perform at my best at the same rate, at the same time, at the same space, right? Yeah.
I think this is crucially important. I have seen that ever since I came to Germany and actually, of course, became a woman and became aware of the cycle and how it all works, that women tend to, or the Western world in general, women, alike as men, don't pay attention to the cyclical changes that women go through. They rather want to, and that was my impression, they want to make women to be like men. And I think this is a very wrong approach. If you go against your nature, you will destroy yourself. And this is my observation. You cannot go against how your biological body is built. Like, you can change a lot. Like, you can change a few things with your body physically, internally. You can change your mindset. You can change your feelings. You can do a lot of bending, if you will, but there are a certain set of rules that I find that you just cannot change. And if you try to go especially against your feminine cycle, the cycle that we all women go through, then you will do yourself an humongous disservice, and you will have repercussions later on when you go through menopause, when you actually don't pay attention to your bodily needs, right? Let's talk about that. How should business be conducted when you actually watch your cycle, and when you try to work around your cycle, so to speak, and not just deliver 24/7 like it is possible for men, because their energy level and their hormonal cycle is pretty much up level. Like, it's the same most of the time, right? Unless they have any kind of health issues. So how should we do this?
This is very fascinating, this topic, because there's a lot of ancient wisdom around cycle that also now more and more, little by little, comes to be very looked from the Western scientific lenses. So I really love that this becomes more important, that we're bringing this back, so to say. So when you look at this, usually the cycle is divided into 4 phases. So you have the menstrual phase, you have the menstrual phase is like a little bit the winter phase, also referred. Then you have the phase after menstruation, which is also referred to spring, as in when it comes to the seasons. Then we have the ovulation phase, that is like summer. And then we have the luteal phase, which is the menstrual phase, which is also like fall. So these are the four phases. And our hormone levels, how much estrogen and testosterone and progesterone that we are releasing in these phases, differs very much, and so does our productivity. So usually when we look at the winter phase, like winter is a time of staying in, right? So when we're bleeding, it's nice to honor the bleed. And to really go and use this time as a time of introspection. And usually most women who start to listen to this, they don't have the desire of crazy socializing in this space. The progesterone levels are sinking, so it's like tiredness. So also in ancient wisdom, the women, they would come together who were bleeding, and they would like cave up together and be together, sharing this time. This is a sacred time. There's also a lot of sacredness in the blood that can be further investigated in that. But when it comes to productivity, so this would be a time of introspection, of reflection, of like taking it easy, not pushing too much. I know that not working might not be possible, but working less or doing different tasks, like really doing something that is easy, not birthing new projects or like creating content or whatever, like things that are highly creative. This is not usually the best time to be very creative. And then we have the spring phase. So things are starting to go up, the estrogen level rises, progesterone is down, so we're like having more energy to go up, to move, and so on. And then we have ovulation. Ovulation is like super birthing, creating, like it's like already in spring and summer. These are the months to socialize, to network, to create. There's a lot of energy available, a lot of power available. And then there comes the luteal phase, the fall phase, which is also like a time of not super high intensity. And many women that I work with, they suffer a lot from premenstrual syndrome. And in our society, this has been also so normalized. Oh yeah, she has her PMS. This is why she's grumpy. And in fact, no, once we're aligning and respecting our hormones, to be so far, like so kicked out, to have like really premenstrual syndromes, this is not our normal. So if we start to work and live more in sync with that, this also, if we respect that, okay, I don't have the capacity to hold like big negotiations in this phase, so I'm not gonna plan them there, because usually we have the capacity to plan how we wanna do things. So yeah, this is also a phase of like analyzing, reviewing, doing accounting. I do my accounting usually in PMS, which I love. So in the luteal phase, yeah. So these are the 4 phases, and how they're connected to the cycle. This is like overall, depending on how our hormones are shifting. And then what I do with the women is to really journal and really reflect and get very intimate with their own circle, because there are some emotions, some things that are more relevant to some in some phases than to other. There's still, but this is like an overall guideline for that.
I also noticed that there is a normalization of what you mentioned, the PMS and general symptoms around the cycle. And this is actually not really true, that most of the symptoms that women go through during their cycle is absolutely not natural, and it's not made, you're not made to suffer that much. And
Exactly.
most of the symptoms, as far as I found out, are also closely linked to the diet and lifestyle. And once yeah, would you want to dive into that?
Yeah, they are linked to the diet, to the lifestyle, but they are also linked to our stress level. So the more stress I'm having, and the worse I can cope with the stress. This is where the embodiment comes in, to build up a more resilience for managing the stress that I'm having, like coming back to the body, regulating the nervous system, like all of these things that doesn't require a lot of time, because many people are like, oh my God, I don't have an hour of my time. It's like, no, this is simple, like taking 3 deep breaths consciously, orienting in space, looking around, giving your body this feeling of like, okay, I'm safe. Even though there's a tremendous, huge workload or a lot of to-dos, I'm good, you know? It's like I am where I am, and I'm right here where I am. Because many, they have this gap of like, this is where I am and this is where I should be, and this is where the stress comes in, where the pressure comes in. And the more pressure there is, and the more pressure there is, the more hassle there is, the less time there is for good food, for taking care of all of that, the more it goes on to the cycle, and the worse usually the time before and during menstruation become. And as you said, this is not normal, and this is about self-care. How much can I strategize self-care? Can I embed this as part of my strategy to really take care of myself, to also have healthy boundaries and be like, okay, up until here and not further? Because I think, or what I see is that many women, especially solopreneurs, they think they need to be available every time, all the time, every day. And they keep on doing it because they want to build up something, what is beautiful, but also this is allowed to rest.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm pretty sure that many women, especially when they are a bit younger, listening to this podcast, they might not quite know or may be unsure on how to actually recognize what we call feminine energy, because we always talk about masculine and feminine energy. So let's go back to that concept and make it crystal clear to everyone listening now. Because coming from a linguistic background, I cannot look away from the real meaning of words. So I think we should always go back to the meaning. What does it actually mean, and what does it mean, and how can we recognize it? Because before we can change something, we need to know what it means and how we can recognize it, right? And many people struggle with that. They don't know when am I in my masculine energy and when am I in my feminine. So
Yeah. So there are many concepts. I'm gonna refer to an easy one from yoga. So there is the ha and there's the ta. So yoga also strives for like bringing masculine and feminine, the polarities, into balance that are within all of us. It doesn't matter what gender. So the ha is the masculine and the ta is the feminine. And the masculine is also connected to the sun, and the feminine is connected to the moon. So everything that would be like during the day, to be doing, to be active, to be like masculine energy is also like bringing things forward. It's like directing, it's focus, like all of these things that are connected to masculine. And then we have the feminine, and the feminine is like the nurture, is this like the care, is the emotions, is the like, you know, the rest. What do you do when the day is gone? You're like resting, you're relaxing, you're caring, you're like tending more to your body. So this is kind of this very easy to separate them. So masculine is focus, action, is like this drive, and feminine is the energy, it's the intuition, it's also the receiving. So the giving and the receiving, the doing and the being, or the non-doing, usually they say in yoga, doing and non-doing. So and we need both. In order to bring things forward, to birth something, we need both. But if we want to bring a message to people, I cannot keep on talking, explaining until they are like falling asleep, right? I'm explaining, and then I pause and I wait until it lands. So this is with business, with everything, like to really be more conscious around the pausing, and to like bring in more this nurturing and open to receive. I know many of my clients, they are so stuck in this feeling of they are over giving and giving and giving and giving, but they don't receive. And then I ask them, are you making yourself available to receive? Because if I want to give you a gift and you keep on talking all the time. I can stand there with my gift, but I may not have the opportunity to actually give it to you because you are busy with your talking, with gestures. Turn, 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 turn. So there needs to be like an openness to receive, and this is what feminine energy brings into this is also our intuition is a lot to do with feminine energy. So as an entrepreneur, or as a female entrepreneur, how much am I making a decision also from my gut feeling? So like I usually like to work with like, how does it feel in my body when I think like, am I gonna collaborate with this person, let's say, and then before I actually make a decision to feel into my body, how does it feel? Do I feel a contraction? Do I feel tension? Do I feel heaviness in my body? Then it may not be the right decision. But when I take my time to feel actually, and I feel like, oh yeah, this feels like an opening, this feels like an excitement. So to bring in this intuitive aspects, which require feeling, which require pausing from the doing. So this is like the feminine.
You referred to the moon, and that reminded me of something. You said that during the day we are doing stuff and the male energy drives us to get to something, think about the goals and strive toward goals, and the moon and the night is for rest. And what it also means is when we are resting, we are actually healing. So whenever you are in your feminine energy, you're actually allowing your body to heal and to digest whatever happens during the day, right? Or it can be even during the day that you kind of get into your feminine energy. Whenever something, for example, stressful happens, and you feel that you are kind of driving yourself towards maybe even negative stress, you can pause and you can go into yourself and you can allow yourself to digest everything first, right? To give yourself space and room to put everything in the right order based on what your gut again tells you, and not your mind, because your mind will be, and I feel the mind is always like very male-ish, so to speak, because it always wants to drive us towards goals. It is very goal-oriented, future-oriented, if you will, or past-oriented, depending on how much trauma we have, you know. So if we listen too much to our minds, we might end up tearing us apart, right? Tearing this beautiful dance, if you will, between the feminine and the masculine that we all hold in our bodies. So finding the time to digest, to rest, and to heal is whenever we are the best or the most in our feminine energy, which is important. And I don't feel there is a number or anything that we could give this audience that they could follow or something, but it's just a gut feeling when it is actually time to get more into your feminine energy, especially if we go back to the cycle again, right? And if we refer back to the cycle. So whenever you kind of create the business around your cycle, you will more likely be able to find time, to find the space, and to give yourself the empathy, again, feminine energy. If you are empathetic with yourself, once again, you are in your feminine energy, while the masculine will always try to find something negative, something to improve upon, again, goal oriented, right? More into the future, like striving for something. So it's a dance, it's a balance, and it's a muscle that I feel lots of people need to learn, especially young women who go now into the business with a very different mindset than our generation, right? All the 18, 20-year-olds that finished school now and they think entrepreneurship is cool, right? We see that a lot. This is a new wave of a new generation that takes on a task that can be very detrimental to them, especially for the women, I feel, if they don't think about this particular topic and structure their business in a way that actually is aligned with their nature.
Yes, I love also how how you put everything into context. Yes, it's yeah. And as you said, there is no ratio. You can use your cycle as an over ratio, but then listening to the body and like anchoring ourselves in the present moment is something that is needed most of the days. And it's, as I said before, this is not something really difficult. It's not a 20 minutes meditation. This is like, it's a 1 minute exercise, or even half a minute can be enough to come back to okay, to the now, to balance this more.
It can
And to
even
find
have,
more strength.
yes,
Go ahead.
and it can have like you can go about it in multiple ways. Like one thing is to be aware of it, right? Or the first step probably to have awareness around it. You don't have to overburden yourself with a million of rituals or trainings and steps and exercises, right? You can start by being aware of it. Take 30 days to become really deeply aware of everything that you are doing in your life, and notice whenever you are in your male energy maybe too much, when it is causing a lot of stress, pain, overload, overwhelm, distraction, procrastination, imposter, what have you. There are so many things that can happen mentally and emotionally to you when you are too much in your masculine, right? And then you can also develop hobbies. That's what I like actually the most. I'm not much of a person that would go in and create exercises a lot or anything like that. But I like to see at this particular thing, when it comes to mental development or emotional development or just personal development in general, I look into hobbies. What kind of hobby can I develop that I enjoy deeply, that would automatically, and as a cherry on the cake, so to speak, also bring me that kind of benefit for having more feminine energy in my life and in my business. So hobbies that incorporate the body, for example, would help you become more aware of your body and actually come more in alignment with it, right? It could be dance, it could be singing, everything that you do with your body. It could be painting, drawing, it could be doing something with your hands like pottery. There are so many different hobbies that you can do with your body that could help you, at least for the first stage of becoming aware, right? Are there any exercises that you could recommend, let's say a beginner that is just starting out, finding out about this?
There are many exercises, but during the day, what helps a lot is to take a deep breath. It's like really simple, inhaling deeply through the nose and exhaling like through a straw, like, and really having a long exhale to exhale all the air, because this shifts the nervous system. And what we want is to have a relaxed nervous system, because if our nervous system is aroused and is through stress, and this is a permanent stress that is like all the time activated through social media scrolling, this is a nervous system, is a stress for our nervous system. So to scroll and take a deep breath every now and then helps to counterbalance and gives the body the impression like, okay, actually I'm safe here. And then from this, having the resilience and the confidence to move ahead and to bring forward what you want to bring forward. So it's very simple, very easily implemented to really prevent burnout and to enable to be in full capacity and have this experience of flow, this experience of where everything just seem to be effortless. And this effortlessness is something that I can create through my body, through this connection to the body. So even things for me, things like accounting, I had a lot of resistance. It was a lot of pushing. It was like just didn't like it. All I wanted was to delegate it. But in the beginning of my entrepreneurship, I had to do it myself. I could not afford an accountant in my first year of entrepreneurship. So I was like, okay, now I have to do it myself. And I would clench my jaws, and it was like a horrible experience. But then I was like, okay, why am I not bringing more juiciness into this accounting? Why am I not like dancing before that and feeling how amazing it can be and breathing? And then I did that. 5 minutes, I put on an amazing song, I pushed my energy into a different level, and all of a sudden I experienced, oh wow, accounting can be quite enjoyable. This feels quite easy in comparison to how it was before. So like things like that can make a huge difference in the way how I encounter things. Or when I go into negotiations, I train my boundary muscle to know, like, okay, to not only have it in my mind, what are my points of negotiation, but to really also have it in my body and have my body in my negotiation and like be like, okay, I'm standing strong on my boundaries. I'm not gonna compromise for less than I know my services or what I have to offer is worth.
Oh, you're talking about so many good things here. Now, the first thing that I want to re-emphasize here is the breathing, and many will miss this because, oh, breathing, what can it do for me? I'm in so much pain, I'm in so much stress. Like breathing, what is that, right? But actually, the breathing is life force. You cannot live without breathing. So if this simple system, built-in system, is so powerful to decide whether you live or die, you can believe me that it will do much more for you if you do it consciously whenever you are in a stressful situation, right? It slows down your heart rate, especially when I think about the exercise that you just showed, right? When you breathe into your stomach, into your abdominal area, and you let it out very slowly, that will slow your heart rate. And if you are in a lot of stress, your heart rate is very fast. So if you want to calm down, you breathe, you do that simple exercise. And breathing is actually so powerful that it can change a lot of things in your body. It brings in oxygen for your brain, for all your organs. Like, how can you not believe that it is powerful, right? You need to understand how powerful it is, first of all, in order to understand how to use it. And the second thing that you mentioned was the jaw. And I want to talk about this one more because you compare the jaw, or there's a connection between the jaw and the pelvic floor. Now we need to talk about this one.
All right, let's talk about the jaw and the pelvic floor. So actually, when we're in embryonal state, around the 15th day, when we're in the womb, there is the mouth, and the jaw is formed, and the pelvic floor is formed. And these two parts, they are actually from a similar depression formed. So they are connected in their structure, in the actual physical anatomical structure. And there is also a facial tissue line that connects the jaw with the pelvic floor. Many times stress accumulates in the jaw. A lot of people who are suffering from a lot of stress, most of my clients, they have very tense jaws, even to that degree that they're clenching the jaw during the sleep. So because of this interconnectedness from the jaw to the pelvic floor, also along our nervous system, our vagal nerve that goes from the jaw through the body into the pelvic floor, into the womb, into the cervix actually. Also when our jaw is clenched and tense, our pelvis floor is also clenched and tense. And many of us are sitting during their work. So also the sitting is naturally putting pressure on the hips, on the pelvic floor. So this is natural that the jaw is gonna be clenched. So there is an anatomical connection between the jaw and the pelvic floor. And then when there is stress, when there is the feeling of overwhelm, when there is frustration, these emotions, this energy in motion is not moved through the body. It's like, okay, I feel it, but I am not allowed to feel it right now. Then this is most likely to accumulate in the jaws and also in the pelvic floor, in the womb. So this is how they are related, and this is also why it's so important to help to bring in more lightness into the jaw and into the pelvic floor. What I see in a lot of my clients is like all of a sudden they feel like much more spacious, they are more productive, they are more connected to ease, because it's like and you're clenching and you're it's like very heavy, right? It's like, yeah. So also they are they are more connected once they're releasing this tension that is there to flow, and their life force can flow, because when our pelvic floor is tense, then our sexual energy cannot flow, and our sexual energy is our life force energy, and we want to be in a body where our life force energy can flow through all of our paths, so we have our full potential available. We have access to our full cognition, we have access to our full productivity, and we can do amazing things with the body that we have, instead of looping in imposter syndrome. You already talked into that, in limiting beliefs, in self-doubt, in self-sabotage, in like hustling, in putting a lot of pressure, in overly high expectations. So usually all of these things, they are settling here and they want to be released, to be more in ease. Yeah.
That is very true. And the jaw actually also, whenever it is tense, the muscles, especially here, are tense. It is also connected to the vocal box and the vocal cords.
Yes.
And I think this is very prevalent, especially for women, whenever they are tensed or overly stressed, and the jaw is tense, it will also have repercussions for the voice. And I'm a voice trainer, so I notice a lot with my clients how much what kind of negative effects it has on their voices whenever they are overstressed and not dealing with many things. And I oftentimes notice that it is also very much interconnected with things they don't account for enough when it comes to embodiment, feminine energy, and actually giving themselves a pause, healing properly, right? Overuse of the voice also plays a role in stressing the jaw. And when you tell me it's also connected to the pelvic floor, like if everything is so much connected, and this line especially, like you will not be surprised that you will find more issues when it comes to intimacy, for example, right? And for some women, it might be a specifically difficult thing to deal with, and they might not know where it's coming from. Maybe they are even blaming themselves. Oh my God, I'm never in the mood, you know? But when it is actually coming from this area, right, either from the jaw or the voice, and you actually find out the root cause, you have a much easier time to deal with the problems laser focused and on point, right? And when we are talking about this connection, what about the connection between the womb? And you mentioned that it's also connected to the womb. And this is also a topic that you talk a lot about in your work. Let's dissect this one and how it impacts the personal and business well-being.
Yeah. How it impacts everything, right? Like everything is interconnected, and as you said, like this connection between the vocal cords and the pelvic floor, the womb, the cervix, is like when I find my connection to my womb, one thing that becomes very clear is the depth of the voice that becomes free. It's like boom, all of a sudden it's like rooted. It's not me, you know. So for me it was like, wow, it was incredible. So aligning the connecting to the womb in business gives me like confidence, a lot of confidence. It's like bam, I'm plugged in. It's like my center, it's the womb, it's rooting, it's like boom. So it's like good, I'm standing confidently in myself. And at the same time it connects to a lot of inner wisdom. As I said before, like the womb is where life is born, where life is created, where life force is flowing. So connecting to that is also opening to a lot of inner wisdom, to a lot of like inspiration, to a lot of creativity, for example. So usually this like manifests in being more trusting in what I have offered that is gonna be coming back, is being more in ease. One time it was so nice, one of my clients, she was like, wow, now that I'm connected to my womb, my to-do list stopped dominating me. And it was like, this is so nice, because yeah, it's like bam, it's like power. It's a little bit this raw, this wild feminine power, a little bit the warrior spirit that comes alive in a wonderful way once we connect our business to it and give this space in our business. Yeah.
When you mention this rootedness to the womb, it also reminds me of something that I also notice a lot in the Western world again, because I grew up very differently in a remote village, far away from everything and everyone. And the women, the way how the women were connected together was very special. And probably because they were more deeply connected with their womb, with their feminine energy, than now I notice in the Western world. And what happens when you are disconnected to your womb is you start to compete. This is masculine energy once again. This enormous competition between women is not only unhealthy, it is destroying the real connection that women innately have with each other. And I think the moment that we are connected to our wombs, we recognize that we are the same. We have all the same power. There is nothing to compete with, because we all inherit the same ability to create, right? And the moment we are disconnected from our wombs, we start to compare. Oh, her hair is more beautiful, her eyes are more beautiful, she has more money, she has a bigger house, her children are more accomplished, whatever, right? And these are, of course, you can compare that, but when you are connected to your womb, you're not impacted. You don't go into that competitive mindset, but you realize, okay, maybe she has all that, but I am connected to myself and I know what I need and what I want, right? And there's not this, and I think this war is so unhealthy, especially for young women who never experienced true connection with another woman. This is like a force by itself. Like, if you know how amazingly close women can be together when each of these women is connected to their wombs and their innate energy, like, this is something that is very much missing, that I'm noticing.
Yes, very, very true to everything. Thank you for again for sharing and for putting this so wonderfully, everything. I love how you say it. And yes, it's like this permission, this authentic expression, and this like, wow, we are in this together. Like, I'm powerful and you are powerful, and thanks God we're all powerful, waking up here and claiming our full potential by connecting and plugging into our womb and not making this a taboo, like, oh, she's talking about sex and business. Ooh, like, no, this is so needed for us to to really step up and to make a change. I'm so passionate about this. Like, yeah.
That's why we're talking about it here.
Exactly. Yeah.
And if you are talking about this type of passion, bringing this type of passion and area into the business, there's a sentence in my mind lurking for a couple of months now that I want to say over and over again. I think women need to do business slightly different than men. And we have our own ways, and I think you figured out that way. And I think a lot of women need to have a look at how you do it, how you figured it out. So having more of somatic practices around business, right? Not making it all so stiff and hard and driving all the time, emotionless maybe even, because you're not allowed to have emotions in your business. Otherwise you're a Karen, right? See, there's always a stigma behind our emotional being, right? Our emotional state. It's always negated into something that is unwanted, especially in the business world. And when we become actually female coaches, I think we face that more than some might be able to handle. And we need to address that the ability of a woman to go through emotional states is once again connected to her cycle, and there needs to be more knowledge around that, right? Not to say that we should scream around, and have our emotional breakdowns every day. I think there is a emotional management system should be in place for every woman to kind of deal with her emotions in a way. But I think at the same time, we should have empathy, like not only we women, right? Because women call other women Karens as well when they are too emotional, or if they are too demanding, or, oh, you're different, or you changed. Like all these negative things around being a woman is kind of, or being a certain type of woman, right? Is I think we should go away from that to negating anything that might be something very difficult for a woman to go through in this phase. Once again, if you are connected to your womb, you will not do that. You will not negate another woman. You will not drive a woman into the ground, right? By any means, right? You will see to have empathy, because the emotion that comes from you from the womb is empathy, actually, right? And if you're connected to that, like it's an easy game for you. So let's talk about the somatic practices that you might have in store that you could give someone who is a beginner maybe to that topic, that you found very useful when it comes to releasing stress.
Well, when we stay with the womb space, a practice that can be done very easily is to lie flat on the ground, to bring the feet to the pelvis, so they're like up, like the heels as close as possible to the hips. And then lift the hips, lift the pelvic floor, and let it fall to the ground, like just by gravity. So there is some thrusting from the ground to the hips. So this helps to release any stuck energy, emotion that is in the womb space. And it's like an emotional hygiene tool that is really wonderful to move all of that, and to not like why are women all over emotional, or like why do we have this? Because there's no emotional hygiene in place. So we have a lot of power with our emotions, but we also need to find consciously spaces to release them. Anger is very welcome to be released and to be here and to be welcomed, but there needs to be a container for that. And if I'm never releasing that, anything, any frustration, if I'm always swallowing, not only that it can lead to chronic illness, but also this is gonna hijack me somewhere. And then I'm losing it. And then I'm the emotional woman who doesn't have her things together. Oh, she's emotional again. It's like, okay, no, I am emotional, but through practices like that, I can have my emotional hygiene, and I can like learn how to work with this power that we inhabit naturally as women, which is wild range of our emotions. So thrusting the pelvis floor on the ground is one somatic practice to help. We already had another one with the deep breathing that you emphasize so beautifully, like, yes, this is our thing that is always there, like we're breathing all the time. So it's like, okay, let's do it more consciously. Let's do it in that way. And then another one that is also easily implemented and shifts very quickly the state of being is shaking. To really like shake, 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 and move it. Because one of my teachers, he said, like, emotion is energy in motion. So yeah, it's like really bam, like, okay. So if I'm feeling like, and also I work a lot online, I have to do a lot of like marketing and other things on my computer. So then I'm like, okay, if I feel resistance, instead of repressing or be like, well, I'm not gonna allow myself to feel resistance, it's like, no, this is not gonna how it's worked. This is the old way. But now we're doing the new way. It's like, okay, I'm taking this resistance, I feel it, and I move it. I bring it out of my system, or whatever it is. If I'm frustrated, like, move it. So we also, again, have this emotional hygiene and give our body the chance to move, to shift, to like be, yeah, to release stress where it's not needed. So we don't run the danger of having a burnout. We are more resilient, we have more capacity, all of that, all of the good things. It feels more effortless.
So I think you said something profound about movement. To whenever you have a lot of stress, you will not get rid of it by thinking through it or sitting still and kind of feeling through it. But I think movement is so neglected in what you call emotional hygiene, and I love this name for it, because that's what it does. It actually keeps your whole body on multiple levels clean, if you will, and receptive to healing once again. Movement itself, whether it is shaking like you say, or whether it's jumping or dancing, is a bit on the edges, I would say, of cleaning, but it is also movement that can bring you out of a very stressed state. And nature also plays a quite important role, right? When we think about embodiment, being in your feminine energy, nature itself is kind of referred to as Mother Earth. Like, we can see a lot of connection there. How do you connect nature and embodiment and feminine energy in your work and into your practice in business? And how can people do the same?
That's wonderful. So, as I said, it's the mother again, the nurturing energy, the caring energy. So including nature is like so important. I mean, having a screen break, we know already, neuroscience tells us, is like really good for our synapses, for our capacity mentally, for our clarity. So having this break and going and hugging a tree is even like tripling the effect, to really ground down, to release, take some deep breaths, like release the nervous system and feel the peacefulness in nature. Because nature is not running in a hamster wheel, is not like following some sort of agenda, or is not goal oriented. Nature is. And to connect to this power, this is where the mother, the feminine, she is. And to just release it, letting it go to nature. This alone is like helping to reduce stress. It helps to find more creative inspiration. Like for me, the best thing today in the morning, I went on a walk in nature. I'm like thinking, okay, I take some intentional ideas with me into that. And then I was like, okay, and I walk and I let go of it. This is also very important, not to make it a thinking walk, but to have an intention, connect to it, and then letting it go, walk in nature. And then I come home and I'm like, I have an amazing download or idea. I call it download. I have an amazing idea and everything flows, and I'm 3 hours content creating full power. And before in the morning, I had content creation on my calendar, and I was sitting there and I was like, oh, tense chores, you know. Like, so I'm like, okay, this is not gonna lead anywhere. So I move it. And this is really profound to understand that sometimes things that may not look productive as we learned to look at them, like having a walk on a morning where you're supposed to be in working hours, is not productive. But if I would have sit there for 5 hours instead of 2 hours walking, my outcome would have been not as inspirational, and not as close to my heart, and like I'd used much less time for getting the same a better amount of work done, because I used nature as a tool to help me to boost my creativity, my inspiration, to ground myself, to come to this place of stillness. Especially when you work with social media, there is so much noise, there's so much things going on. So sometimes we can forget that actually we don't have to run. Yeah.
That's so
The tree is
beautiful.
gonna be there at the same time tomorrow again, you know, like not running anywhere. So I like that also. Yeah.
And from a color perspective, it's also like all your senses actually do something different when you go out in nature, right? You breathe fresh air for starters, right? Breathing, once again, like when you are in a closed room, how much air can you have that's good for you, right? Your eyes, actually, what do they see from a color psychology perspective? What do these colors actually do in your brain? The green, especially, the green calms you down. The green is also connected to the heart chakra. Once again, that's interesting, right? That once again, the nature that we perceive as being feminine is green, and it is connected to the heart chakra. And it opens up your heart to yourself and to the world and to however you want to move forward. It connects you to your true self and not something that you want to be that you're not, you know. The blue, once again, the blue is kind of a trusting color, builds trust in yourself and in the universe that you see and that you perceive. The earth, when you walk on the earth, on the street, or just the pathways in the woods, let's say, it's brown. Brown again is trust builder, builds trust in yourself. Whenever you look at brown stuff, right? Trust in yourself and in your intuition. Once again, it grounds you so much, especially when you walk on ground with your bare feet, right? The most nerves that you have in your body are on your feet, on your bottom of your feet, right? So whenever you connect that, like, that is magical. And people again dismiss it. Oh, what can nature do for me? Nothing. Like, I need to hustle, right? That's the young culture, once again, the new generation that will fall into this trap very easily, dismissing the most natural and most important things that nature, universe has given us to use, actually, right? To rest, to get more energy. As you said, creativity is such a huge one, right? If you open yourself up to nature and to taking in all the beauty that it offers you, right, wherever you are in the world. And that's the beauty of it. Everywhere, in every corner of the world, there is a different shade of the same colors that will again connect you to your heart and allow you to build trust with yourself and the universe.
Yes, yes. And thank you for adding again so beautifully the colors and the psychology behind the colors, and yes, this trust. And like for me also, it reminds me that we're all sharing the same earth. You know, like then it's like, so we're here all together in this. I mean, come on, this is just a fact. And yeah, also to be more like eco-conscious, more connected. This is very close to my heart, that we're really taking care more about our environment, our earth, and we can only take care for something that is close to our heart. And this is cultivating, because our parents, we also don't meet, like after 18 you move out, you never meet them again, right? You nurtured a relationship to the parents, usually in best cases. I hope for everybody this is true who listens here. But yeah, the nature also is like, we cannot turn around to be like, okay, we don't have nature. Like, it's also cultivating a relationship, caring, nurturing this, and bringing this awareness and consciousness into business.
So beautiful. Thank you so much for
Thank you.
letting us have part in your wisdom and everything that you have learned so far. Where can people find you should they decide, oh, I need to know more about this, I need to work with you now?
Yeah, thank you for having me and for having this conversation. I appreciate it a lot, and thank everybody for listening up until this point. And if you want to have more, the most, I hang out on Instagram with Ariane Lalakea. And yeah, this is the best way to get in touch with me and to write me. I always laugh when people are reaching out to me, because many times it feels a little bit like you're talking to Instagram, and I know there's many people, but then I laugh when people are giving me like a hi, I'm here. It's like, yay, wonderful. It makes me always very happy. So feel free to reach out to me and connect with me there.